introduce colleagues as their parts come up. We are tag teaming this presentation. One moment, I'm trying to find my controls for screen share. Okay, so Delaware State Housing Authority's main services are promoting affordable rental and homeownership opportunities to low and moderate income Delawareans. And the way that we do that is through our dual roles as a public housing authority, or PHA, and as the state's housing finance agency, or HFA. I'm going to speak very briefly about these two different roles, and then I will hand it over to one of my colleagues to go a little bit more in depth about what we do as a public housing authority. So we are one of 5 public housing authorities operating in the state of Delaware. Our primary jurisdiction as a PHA is Kent County outside of the city of Dover and Sussex County. And so within those areas, we operate public housing sites, and we also administer housing choice vouchers, which used to be referred to as Section 8. We also operate the State Rental Assistance Program, or SRAP, which is a state-funded voucher program. And so for the purposes of SRAP, we actually operate statewide. But generally, as a PHA, we are Kent and Sussex County focused. We are also, as I mentioned, the state housing finance agency for the state of Delaware. Every state has an HFA, and we are it for Delaware. And we do a number of things within that role. One is we assist people who are looking to purchase a home. So we have down payment and closing cost assistance, affordable mortgage products. We also have programming to support existing homeowners. So for example, we have our statewide emergency repair program, which is available to owner occupants. And we also have foreclosure prevention programming. In addition to supporting buyers and existing homeowners, we also help to finance the construction and preservation of affordable rental and homeownership units. And we administer federal and state funds for community development. So at this point, I am going to pass the baton to my colleague, Alana Davis. She is the Director of Housing Management, which is the section of DSHA that is the Public Housing Authority.
Thank you, Caitlin. Good afternoon. I'm Alana Davis. I'm the Director of Housing Management. And our role with Delaware State Housing Authority as a public housing authority, we support affordable housing multiple ways. One of the ways that we do that is with our housing sites. On the screen, you'll see a map that shows where our housing sites are throughout the state of Delaware. We have 286 public housing units, 206 tax credit RAD units, and we recently issued 209 project-based vouchers. The project-based vouchers are to individual developers for their projects, and those vouchers are then tied to the property itself to provide affordability. With our housing sites, our tax credit RADs, and public housing, all of our tenants pay an adjusted amount of their income, which is 30 to 35% of the tenant's income. We also issue vouchers. So we have Section 8 housing choice vouchers, known as HCV, and these are tenant-based rental assistance. So the tenant actually receives a voucher and they're able to take that voucher with them to different landlords in order to rent from the landlords. We administer 902 standard HCV vouchers for Kent and Sussex County. And then we also have a bouquet of special vouchers, including our family reunification program. That's for children exiting foster care and for parents with children in or about to be placed in foster care. And those are referral based from DFS and DCYFS. We also have VASH vouchers. Those vouchers are for veterans, and we get the referrals for those vouchers from the VA. And then we have 811 mainstream vouchers, and those are for disabled and homeless who are under 62, and we receive referrals for those vouchers through DHSS. Another part of our program is our SRAP program, but I'm going to turn it over to Julie Watkins so that she can tell you more about that.
Okay, thank you, Alana. Good morning. My name is Julie Watkins. I am a housing management administrator here, and I do oversee the SRAP program. The SRAP program formal name is the State Rental Assistance Program. It is completely funded by the state. It runs very similar to how a Section 8 voucher, old name, new name, HCV voucher operates. We do have some uniqueness to it, though, because this voucher through SRAP, because it is state funded, can be used anywhere throughout the state of Delaware, so long as it fits within, our allowable rents, it passes inspection, and the landlord's willing to take it. So it is a very unique program, and it is certainly needed in Delaware. We are annually funded by the state $4 million. We also receive additional funding directly from DSAM, Substance Abuse and Mental Health, as well as to SAPID, and that is all just over $5 million. So this program has grown from the very beginning in 2011 all the way up to approximately a $10 million program. The SRAP population includes individuals exiting long care facilities and nursing homes, those that are at risk for being admitted to or requiring services from state-supported institutions, our young people exiting foster care. Sometimes the families that they're with or the housing they have ends literally the day they turn 18. So that is a great opportunity for them. We also offer SRAP vouchers to families who lack affordable housing, and it's the barrier to reunification. That could be individuals that are looking to get their children back or trying to prevent them from being taken away. Next slide. It is a referral-only program. Individuals cannot apply to SRAP directly with us. All of our referrals come in through our partner agencies with the state. Most of our partner agencies are through DHSS, but we do also have them coming through DSCYF, Children, Youth, and Family. Some of our other partners, the DDDS, Developmental Disabilities, and DMMA that I did not already mention, we have a program called Group Violence Intervention. That started as a pilot about 5 years ago and has grown to be a permanently funded part of our program. Occasionally we have extra funding, whether it be from individuals that haven't used their vouchers or maybe don't stay in the program as long as we would expect them to, and we're able to create pilots. So we have a new pilot, the Family Reunification through Prevention and Behavioral Health. And I'm happy to say that they are over 90% utilized. So that is a great pilot program, and that is something that we will work to make permanent. DOC reentry, individuals that can be released from the prisons or state institution, but they need housing or they won't let them leave. So all of these things that we're mentioning, especially like the nursing home, DPC, the correctional institutions, these are all cost savers for the state when we can remove them from a higher cost of daily living, monthly living, and put them through an SRAP voucher for housing. It saves thousands and thousands of dollars per voucher. The rents are set. Each client, regardless of their referral process, will pay 28% of their gross income towards the rent. SRAP pays the difference as the subsidy. And as I mentioned, the vouchers can be used statewide. Right now, we have about 800 vouchers either issued or housed at this time. We do have 348 that are funded by the state and 495 funded by DSAM and DSAPID. So those, along with our pilot programs, total about 900 vouchers. So the program is big, it is growing, and I am happy to answer any questions that come up at any point about SRAP. You feel free to contact me.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Alex Modeus, and I am the Director of Policy and Planning with the Delaware State Housing Authority. And I'm here to talk about not only our agency, but also the other 4 housing authorities across the state of Delaware. And I'll be talking about which housing authorities administer public housing, which ones administer housing vouchers, and the jurisdictions in which the housing authorities operate. And so a bit of a review from one of the previous slides. Our housing authority, we have 286 public housing units, 206 tax credit RAD units, and then we recently issued 209 project-based vouchers. And so we also issue housing choice vouchers. We issued over 900 recently. And the jurisdiction in which we operate is Kent and Sussex County. I'll get into why that is in a little bit. That refers to our public housing and our housing choice vouchers. And then our SRAP program that Julie just presented on is a statewide program. So that program does cover all 3 counties in Delaware. Talking about the Dover Housing Authority, they do administer public housing. They have a number of different properties around Dover, which include Senate View, Manchester Square, Manchester Court, Derby Estates, and Queen Manor. This accounts for over 280 units within the city of Dover. And then the Dover Housing Authority also administers housing vouchers. They issue 220 Section 8 housing choice vouchers. And they operate solely within the municipality of Dover. Newark has a housing authority, the Newark Housing Authority. Newark owns a number of different public housing units. They have 36 one-bedroom units, 20 scattered sites across the city, ranging from 2 to 4-bedroom apartments, and then 56 affordable units at Alder Creek. And as well as DSHA and Dover, they administer housing vouchers, and similar to Dover, they're city-based, operate in Newark, Delaware. Really, Newcastle County Housing Authority is why we only operate within Kent and Sussex. So the county has its own housing authority. They do not administer public housing like all the other housing authorities. However, they do administer housing vouchers, and they operate just within Newcastle County. And then last but not least, the Wilmington Housing Authority. They do administer public housing. They have 16 properties as well as some scattered sites across the city. And they do administer housing vouchers as well, and solely operate within the municipal boundaries of Wilmington. And so, as you can see here by this table, not all PHAs within Delaware administer public housing, but all of them administer housing vouchers. And we all recently collaborated on an initiative to centralize that application process for residents. And so I will be tossing it over to Chief Strategy Advisor Caitlin Del Colo to talk about that process.
Thank you, Alex. So as Alex mentioned, we have collaborated across all 5 PHAs to create a new central access point for applying for public housing and voucher programs that we collectively administer. And so the new website where folks can go if they want to apply to a waiting list or update their application on a waiting list is delaware.affordablehousing.com. And we are very happy to share with you all that as of Monday, we have reopened our waiting lists. Prior to Monday, our waiting lists had been closed in some cases for several years. Already in the first 48 hours of reopening the waiting list, we received over 52,000 applications from over 10,000 unique individuals. And so individuals can, from this one website, apply to be on a waiting list for more than one public housing authority. So if folks don't really mind relocating to a different part of the state, they can apply for a DSHA voucher, but they could also apply for a Wilmington Housing Authority voucher. And they do it all from one website now versus how it used to be where you would have to go to each individual public housing authority to apply. So we're really, really excited about this development. It's going to make things so much easier for constituents, and it is also going to help us move through the waiting list more quickly, move through that pipeline. Okay, and at this point, I am going to turn it over to Brian Rosello. He is our Director of Housing Finance, and he is going to talk about our homeownership programs.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Caitlin. So, good afternoon. I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of the programs we have here for homeownership. In general, Delaware's overall homeownership rate is strong, among one of the highest in the 50 states. We're at 73.6%. But we still want more people to be able to access and purchase a home, because we know that buying a home is one of the ways into the path of being able to get your footing in wealth. So we have home assistance with loans for first-time home buyers as well as repeat home buyers. We recently in 2024 just launched our Welcome Home program back, where we're funding this program with mortgage revenue bonds. Last year, we were able to help 2,300 families purchase a home. That's about 1 in 10 homes purchased in the state of Delaware was purchased using one of DSHA's homeownership programs. Our website is listed here. You probably see a campaign, which we're working on as well, called Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye. That has its own website where we market our mortgage products. DSHA is not a lender. We work with a list of right now about 42 mortgage companies throughout the state, as well as banks, to help offer our mortgage product. It's not limited to any geographic location anywhere within the state of Delaware. We do have some maximum purchase price limits as well as income limits that can be found in that Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye website. The max purchase price for a home in Newcastle County is $571,946, so still a pretty large number. And in Kenton, Sussex, $510,939. We also have we work with a list of the Delaware Federation of Housing Counselors to help those who may not be quite mortgage ready or have a lot more questions or may have not the right credit, to help them get prepared to become a homeowner. The next slide, please. So one of the other things we also offer is foreclosure prevention. So not just putting folks into a home, but also help them to maintain that home for the longevity and be able to pass that home to a loved one. We're working to relaunch the state-funded DMAP program, which is a $30,000 second or third lien. Right now, we're still working through funding through HAF, which is the Homeownership Assistance Fund, that was funded through ARPA dollars that will be winding down in September. Probably this program will be winding down a little bit before September, most likely in March, and we'll be relaunching the state-funded DMAP program. We also have a good starting point where folks who may or may not have access or know about this program, they can go to DelawareHomeownerRelief.com or calling a hotline at 1-800-220-5424. We also will be holding foreclosure workshops periodically with the Department of Justice, as well as supporting housing counselors at foreclosure mediation. And Alex, I know we didn't in the presentation, but I don't know if we want to talk about the HSP program quickly. We currently have assistance available for renters through our homeownership stability program called HSP. That program also is funded through ARPA dollars through the Emergency Rental Assistance. And that program will also sunset September 30th in 2025. Right now, it's helping families at 80% of area median income. Folks who are facing eviction, we can help them stave off that eviction and pay that assistance. Or folks who may need assistance getting into a rented property, with security deposit and 3 months forward rent. And they also can work through, we have a list on our website, a list of community navigator partners who they can work through to help make this process seamless for them. And that's all I had. I'm turning over to our development team.
All right. So as I already mentioned, I'm the director of policy and planning, not development. Unfortunately, we couldn't have anybody from our development team join us today. But I will do the slides for our development section. Won't be able to provide too much expertise, but all these programs are on our website, and we can definitely get you in touch with someone from our development team if needed. So what do we do in the areas of development and specifically community development? We finance the construction and preservation of income restricted rental units. Our primary means of doing that is distributing the low income housing tax credit program. This is a federal source of affordable housing development, financing available statewide that provides a direct federal income tax credit to qualified owners and investors who choose to build, acquire, rehab affordable rental units. And so we get these tax credits from the federal government, and then we distribute them to those who are interested within the state of Delaware. We also provide permanent supportive housing, and we have a number of different programs related to that. And that's obviously tailored more towards housing insecure folks, and then special population housing as well. We finance the acquisition, rehab, construction, and/or repair of homeownership units, and we do this through 4 different programs. We do this through the Strong Neighborhoods Housing Fund, the Homeownership Production and Preservation Fund, the Statewide Emergency Repair Program, and the Community Development Block Grant. Obviously, the Statewide Emergency Repair Program provides emergency repairs for qualified Delaware homebuyers. The Community Development Block Grant, as well as the Strong Neighborhoods Housing Funds, those are both programs coming from the federal government. And we outline our plans as well as how much we plan to allocate throughout Delaware within these programs in our annual action plan. And that's also accessible on our website. And then we also administer housing-related emergency response funding. Next slide, Caitlin. So within talking about development, our downtown development district program is incredibly successful. We just reached our 10-year anniversary of the program. The first 3 districts were Seaford, Wilmington, and Dover. And since over the course of the last 10 years, we now have 10 downtown districts throughout the state of Delaware. And so this is a program funded through the state, and it provides a rebate for commercial and residential investments in designated downtown corridors. So each 10 cities that participate in this program have a downtown district that's mapped out. And if you're a developer who wants to develop commercially or residentially within that area, you can get a rebate. And oftentimes that rebate can get close to covering the cost of construction.
Hey, how you doing?
Along with other incentives as well.
Yep. Doesn't feel like it, but how is it on the house side?
I just muted that participant. Sorry about that. We have our Emergency Solutions Grant. This is a grant program funded through HUD. It can cover operating costs for emergency shelters. Eligible recipients may include local governments and nonprofits, and our agency awards funding through an application process. And then last but not least, as far as this slide with development, Home for Good program. This is a partnership between DSHA and the Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh. And this provides grants to nonprofits for activities that support those experiencing risk of experiencing homelessness. And so, as you can see here, it's a wide range of programs ranging from housing insecure folks to downtown development to emergency repair. Next slide, Kim. And then last but not least, we have these 4 programs housed in our development department. And so these are attached to the American Rescue Plan Act. We received one-time funds to supplement these programs. The Accelerator and Preservation Fund. This is from state and local fiscal recovery funds, as I said, authorized by ARPA, and it is Economic Development and Affordable Housing Program. The Market Pressure Relief Fund. This stems from COVID-19 pandemic, relieving economic pressures caused by homeowners and residents across the state. The Mixed Income Housing Fund. This fund, we've allocated about $7 million to this fund. It incentivizes housing developers to provide affordable units at around 65% area median income, or AMI. And developers must commit to a minimum of 5 affordable housing units with a maximum of 25% of total units. And then last but not least, our Catalyst Fund. This is a fund that we collaborate on with Scenair, who does affordable housing development. They're based in Wilmington. And yeah, those are all of our development programs. As I said, I apologize if I could not speak too in depth on the programs, as that's not my area of expertise. But all this information is available on our website.
Hey, thank you, Alex. It's my turn again. So as you can tell, there is a lot that we do when it comes to housing in the state of Delaware, but there are still some housing and homelessness related activities that are not within our purview. And so that is where our partner agencies come into play. So for example, if you have a constituent that is experiencing homelessness and needs shelter, you would not have that person contact DSHA. We don't operate shelters. Instead, you would advise that person to contact the centralized intake process, which is housed within Housing Alliance Delaware. They are a nonprofit based here in Delaware. You could also access centralized intake by calling 211, but that is the place that you would go if you are looking for a place to sleep tonight. One of our other partner agencies is the Department of Health and Social Services. They administer direct cash assistance and emergency motel/hotel vouchers to qualifying households. Typically, those hotel vouchers will cover about 3 weeks worth of a stay in a hotel or a motel. So if one of your constituents is trying to obtain one of those vouchers, again, they would need to go to the Department of Health and Social Services to get that. And they can do that by going to the nearest state service center. When it comes to manufactured housing, DSHA does not have an enforcement role over manufactured housing. So if you do have a constituent that is experiencing an issue, related to the manufactured home park owner, their best bet would be to reach out to the manufactured housing ombudsman that is housed in the Delaware Department of Justice. We also do not enforce landlord-tenant code. So if a constituent is experiencing a landlord-tenant issue and we are not subsidizing that unit, then the constituent would need to contact private legal counsel. There are a number of nonprofit legal service organizations in the state of Delaware. They include Classy Legal Services Corporation of Delaware and Delaware Volunteer Legal Services. Additionally, depending on the type of issue, it may sometimes be appropriate to reach out to the Attorney General because they handle consumer protection cases. And then last but not least, we do not enforce the State Fair Housing Act. If somebody believes that they are a victim of discrimination under the State Fair Housing Act, they would need to reach out to the Division of Human and Civil Rights. And now I pass it back to Alex.
Thanks, Caitlin. I just want to provide some contact information for our agency. For constituent-related issues, please contact Deb Whitten. She works in our Public Relations Department, and she is our Community Relations Coordinator. As you see, we have the email and phone number plus extension posted there. And then for legislative policy issues, please contact the wonderful Caitlin Del Colo. She's our Chief Strategy Advisor. She does everything policy for us. And there's her email and phone number as well. So really appreciate everyone from my team at DSHA, and especially those guests that have joined us today online for listening to our presentation. And we'd be happy to talk after this meeting or take any questions you may have.
Alex, if you can hear me and you don't mind, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Matt Heckles. I'm the new director here. Sorry I wasn't able to be on earlier. I might have snuck on here, Alex, without you seeing me. But I was delayed with some other meetings, but really happy that Alex and Caitlin and the rest of the team here at DSHA are putting these together to give you a little head start on understanding the housing authority and what we do and how to work with us. So hopefully these are useful to you. If they are, spread the word around to your colleagues that that we're having these introductory sessions over the next few days, maybe a couple weeks. There's some other dates that we've put out there. And I think we'd like some feedback from you too. I think there's a version of this perhaps where we dive deeper into different parts of housing to talk about home ownership, or talk about public housing, or talk about development and what it means. The way I approach this is that the more informed our partners are about what we do, the better we're going to work together. And so that certainly applies to the to folks working in Legislative Hall, and for that matter, nonprofits, local governments, counties, cities, our developer communities, realtors, and so on and so forth. So thank you for your attention and for participating today. And if you have any feedback, if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know, and we'll continue this momentum and try to make it as useful to you as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Heckles. And just another note, while folks think of whether they have any questions, these slides are going to be available on our website. So I hope you weren't taking furious notes. We will make sure that you have access to the slides going forward. And if there aren't any questions, we certainly don't want to keep you hostage. But again, if you have questions and they are, oh, I see a hand raised. Representative Smith.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. My question is, you mentioned the amount of applications that you received, 10,000 people, about 30 some odd thousand applications. How many of those applications do you think will be successful? Like, can you earmark that?
I'm going to try to tag team this answer along with Alana Davis, our Director of Housing Management. So as I mentioned, just in the first 48 hours, we received over 52,000 applications from 10,000 individuals, but that is across all 5 public housing authorities. I don't have the figure in front of me of how many of those applications are specific to DSHA's voucher and public housing waitlists. Alana, do you have that information in front of you?
I do not have that number in front of me. I'm sorry, Caitlin.
That's okay.
But to the question of how many would be successful, it really will depend. When people apply, we're taking their information based on the face value of what they give to us. Once we bring them in for processing, that's when we will really know if they meet income, asset, all of those benchmarks. So that's when we go to process, each housing authority goes to process the people. That's when we'll know which ones are truly successful.
Does that answer your question, Representative?
Yes, as much as you could. Yep. Mhm.
Great, thank you. I think it might also be worth mentioning, Alana, that DSHA is unique among the 5 PHAs in that we are a moving to work agency. That is a special designation by HUD. And so the way we administer our moving to work program is unless you are elderly or disabled, if you are one of our voucher or public housing clients, you are required to be in the moving to work program. There are financial literacy requirements that go along with that. And you receive the subsidy, whether it's the voucher or the public housing unit, for a set amount of time. During that time period, a portion of what would go towards your rent actually goes into an escrow account. And if you're successful at the end of the time period of the program, you're able to use that money towards, could be a down payment on a house. It could be a security deposit in a private unsubsidized unit. And so the idea is that we are trying to move our clients off of the subsidy, and that creates movement in the pipeline so that once that person no longer needs their voucher or public housing unit because they've graduated the program, now that voucher and unit can be made available to somebody that's on the waiting list. So it's all about moving through the pipeline and getting people to self-sufficiency. Is there anything you would add to that, Alana?
It's a 7-year program, but most of our residents are able to complete it within 5 years.
Thank you for that.
Maybe I think the question was about the consolidated waiting list though, right at the beginning? Is that right?
I would be
Well,
open to hearing. Yeah.
Caitlin, was that the question at the beginning about the waiting list?
Yes,
waiting
so
list?
I had shared, the number of how many people had applied and how many total applications, because of course somebody can apply for more than one waiting list in one go. But Representative Smith was wondering, of those, how many applications are going to be successful? And as Alana explained, it will depend on that person's application, if they actually do meet the requirements and asset limits, et cetera.
But I think it's a great opportunity for us to toot our horn here about just the concept of a consolidated waiting list. There have been 2 other states that have tried to do this, and none of them have done it the way Delaware has, so completely, where all of the housing authorities have come together. And to me, it's a matter of customer service. If you're looking for housing in Delaware, it doesn't matter if you're on one side of an imaginary line that HUD drew in the 1980s or the other side. And so this allows people to get on the waiting list and to tell us that they're in need of housing. So it's about transparency and to understanding the community and what it needs. But then also we're going to serve them better because they're going to be able to keep that information up to date, the information that we need up to date through the website rather than sending letters out and getting letters back. So there's going to be administrative savings in this. And we're doing it once for each applicant rather than 5 times if they were on 5 different waiting lists. Oh, and by the way, the Wilmington Housing Authority, for example, has opened and closed its waiting list over time. So sometimes you have to wait if you're looking for housing from WHA. In the past, that's not true anymore. This waiting list is open all the time. It will show a much larger number than we've seen before on our waiting list for this type of housing. But I think that's a good thing. I think it's going to represent the actual need in our community. And so we'll understand that much better than if it was fragmented across different jurisdictions and where there were all these barriers to people between people and their housing resources. So it probably doesn't do a whole lot to speed up the availability of vouchers and rental assistance. That is the kind of stuff that that Caitlin and Alana were talking about in terms of supporting our program participants once they're in the program. And those kinds of policies we work on all the time. That's the pipeline that Caitlin was talking about. But this waiting list may not solve any of that, but it gives us a great transparency into the data, much better customer service, much lower barriers to accessing housing for people, allows us later down the road to make some policy changes. Maybe, we can all the housing authorities can agree on inspection protocols and on the forms that we use to bring more landlords into the program and expand the housing resources that way. So it's a big deal. And I always have to catch myself when I say that now. It's a big deal. And so I'm really proud of DSHA and the other housing authorities for having worked on that and to get it open. And again, I know that the idea of all of these families coming forth and expressing their need can be intimidating and can be perhaps interpreted as a negative in some ways. They're there anyway, right? And so this is just us being able to see them better. So thank you for asking the question about that. I think it's important.
Yes, thank you for the extra context. It is a big deal. And for those of you who may not be looking at the chat, I dropped a link to our legislative partners webpage. And so that webpage has contact information for myself, for Deb Whitten, who again is the one who handles constituent questions. But if you scroll to the bottom of that webpage, you will find the link to the slides that we shared today.
Awesome. Thank you, Director Heckles, for chiming in with some comments and joining us. And does anybody else have any questions or comments? Seeing none. As Caitlin said, don't want to hold you too long, but really appreciate you joining us. This information will all be available on our website, and feel free to contact us with that contact information I supplied if you have any more questions or want to start more conversations. So thank you, everybody. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.